Stop me if you've actually heard this before, but Tom King's latest series is basically him admiring himself, so impressed with his own artistic ability as a writer that he's failed to include any type of stakes, to include any type of character growth, any type of real story progression. He's basically just sitting there in all of himself, huffing his own farts, while his Wonder Woman series basically goes down in flames. Oh, and once again, I don't know if you've heard this one before, he's ruining a fantastic comic book artist. This should be the breakout comic book series of Daniel Sampere's career. That is not the case. This thing is falling apart so fast. This week we got Wonder Woman #8. I guess a lot of people were kind of upset with this comic book. Me personally, I am upset with this one because I wasted my time once again reading it. And there's nothing wrong with that. People can like or dislike a comic book for different reasons. Me personally, I'm so fed up with this Wonder Woman comic book. And the bad thing is, I kind of have to keep reading it. At DC, I read Batman, I read Superman, and I read Wonder Woman, whether I'm liking them or not. At Marvel, I read Spider-Man or Amazing Spider-Man, X-Men, and Wolverine, whether I like the books or not. So basically, I can't give this thing up because I'm a comic book critic. I talk about all the new releases from Marvel and DC. So I have to subject myself to this garbage month in and month out. And now I'm going to subject you to this garbage because I can't take it anymore. Eventually, enough is enough. I'm so tired of Tom King. I'm just waiting, please, despite being a complete rehash of True Grit, basically stealing like almost verbatim a fucking story from somebody else and turning it into a Supergirl story. Let Supergirl Woman of Tomorrow be the biggest hit in comic book movie history. And for James Gunn and everyone at fucking Warner Brothers to be like, oh my goodness, this Tom King is the real deal. Why are we wasting on comic books? And get him out of my life. It's so bad. It's so predictable. It's so terrible. Can you believe it? Tom King doesn't like the patriarchy. Can you believe it? It appears Tom King isn't a big fan of religion. Oh, wow. You're really breaking new ground here. How many times do I have to see Wonder Woman get stuck as a Stepford wife? Not exactly new initiatives in storytelling. And the worst part is you can start to see Daniel Sampere phoning it in this particular comic book, something I've never actually seen him do in a series. And I don't blame him. If I was Daniel Sampere and I was having to illustrate this garbage month in and month out from Tom King, I would start phoning it in too, because it's the weirdest thing. The first issue, like fast forwards to anything interesting happening with the progression of the America versus illegal Amazon squatting in America to get to a certain point. And once they got there, he just stopped. It's just the sovereign lecturing, well, the reader, because I'm the one having to deal with it over and over again. And it's very, very tiring. Let's get into it. Let's talk about that art. This is the first time I really have major league criticism for the art of Daniel Sampere. There are two different stories going on here. There's one of Wonder Woman essentially being tortured by the Sovereign, and I feel her pain. I feel like I'm being tortured in every single one of those scenes. That stuff is kind of okay, but every single time you get one of those pages, every shot of Wonder Woman is the exact same flat, boring angle. It's either from the side or directly straight on. So it's the same fucking scene being played out monotonously, boringly, over and over and over again. The only part of the story that looks good, in my opinion, is when Daniel Sampere is trying to be, I don't even know if he's trying to be Greg Smallwood here. Certainly the look and the coloring of it reminds me of Greg Smallwood, but I think that's actually the work of the colorist Tomo Mori, who went out of his way to kind of make it look like this idyllic setting because Wonder Woman became a Stepford wife or whatever for like the 10th time already. That stuff looks better, but it is just her doing chores. Who opens up a Wonder Woman comic book to see Wonder Woman doing chores? Who opens up a Wonder Woman comic book to see the same angle on her face over and over again, getting lectured by like a 98-year-old man that has no physical capabilities whatsoever? The entire time she's being tortured, I'm not worried about Wonder Woman. I'm only worried about me and my own personal sanity. And fortunately for Tom King, throughout this series, Daniel Sampere has saved a lot of his very boring, monotonous, tedious, pretentious-ass scripts. Unfortunately, this time, he's not able to do it, especially with the torturing scenes. Half the story looks better than the other, but the half that looks good is Wonder Woman vacuuming the fucking carpets. I'm not even kidding you. Wonder Woman is under the spell of the lasso of lies, and within the torture that she's going through in her mind, she is in an idyllic 1940s or 1950s setting. And I don't know if you knew this, but the 1940s and 1950s were the most fucking patriarchal times in our entire society. It was the worst time in the history for women. Everyone was being oppressed at the time. And I guess this is what Sovereign's putting on Diana Prince in her mind as she has decided to settle down and be a good wife for Mr. Steve Trevor. Steve Trevor has no favors done to him in this particular comic book. I wish he just would have used a character that didn't exist. But it's basically just Steve Trevor being an asshole and talking down to his wife the entire time. He's going to go to the officers club and she wants to know when he's going to be back. Oh, why are you always nagging me? You're suddenly this woman. Your eggs are burnt. Why don't you make the pork chops better? I expect, better laundry detergent. While Wonder Woman is trying to be, like I said, a Stepford wife or whatever. I don't know. Is this what Tom King thinks of the 1940s and 1950s? I hate to fucking break it to Tom King, and I hate to break it to you if you think that wasn't a golden age of American, fucking history. We had come out of the Great Depression, entered into World War II, we're victorious, and they call it the greatest generation for a fucking reason. If you go back and look at polling and stuff like that, the way people felt at this time, including women, guess what? They were orders of magnitude happier than you and I are right now. It turns out actually having a family and kids and feeling like that was your greatest responsibility, rather than going out there and feeling like if you don't change the world on your own, you're an enormous failure. It turns out that stuff was healthier for people. It turns out a lot of people were happier. Did you know that you could be a fucking barber and your wife wouldn't have to work and you could own a fucking house then? You could actually expect to buy a house on a barber salary at that time. A golden fucking age in American civilization. What everyone else in the entire world would like to get to is what he's apparently disparaging here. Now, obviously, he's using the lasso of lies or whatever, but I think Tom King might be oblivious as to why they were the greatest generation and why it wouldn't be the worst thing in the world to maybe get back to the 1940s and 1950s. I have a hard time believing that every husband was just a cocksucker to his fucking wife. If you read Wonder Woman #8, I get the feeling that that's the way Tom King sees it, because he don't like the patriarchy. It's not good to have the nuclear family. That stuff's fucking evil. It's kind of toxic. Feeling like the greatest responsibility in the world is your family and taking care of them is a weird feeling, I think, for this guy. The thing, I guess, that's getting a lot of people upset in this one is the use of multiple Bible passages, which is basically the sovereign himself, I guess, using the Bible as reasoning towards Diana Prince as to why he's better than her and why she should be a wife and be subservient to her husband and all this kind of stuff. And it's used as part of the narrative throughout. Like I said, the entire thing is fucking torture. When the sovereign is talking to Diane, you should feel like a dog. And he pours wine on her head and all this stuff. And she's just being ridiculed. And he's using a lot of Bible passages. But I will admit this, and in the case of Tom King, whenever the sovereign starts talking about religion and the way that he's manipulating it and using it, by the end of the comic book, he does explain that he doesn't actually believe in God. He's not a religious man, but he believes that religion is to be used by the powerful, and he's manipulating people's beliefs in religion and stuff like that to fit his own personal worldview, forcing her to live with them within her mind, but also explaining it to her. So the guy is supposed to be evil. He's supposed to be the bad guy. And he freely admits that he is manipulating Bible verses in the Word of God for his own personal gain. So there's certainly an easy way out. I do see a lot of people getting much more upset about this stuff than I do, but I can certainly see a place in me that goes, this is what Tom King thinks everybody that's religious or can quote Bible verses is like. We are all the sovereign kind of thing. I don't think he expressly points that out or makes that as overt as all the other stuff going on within this comic book. And almost everything he tries to say is completely fucking overt. He's about as subtle as a goddamn jackhammer at this point. But I can definitely understand why people would take that perspective about what Tom King is trying to do here, putting the Word of God in this guy's mouth. But he does say he's trying to manipulate the Word of God into hurting people. The worst thing about the entire series is that the entire thing, except for, I believe, the last issue, is being narrated by the Sovereign. And he's telling this really fucking boring, mundane, stupid-ass story about Trinity's mother, who may or may not be Diana Prince. She is supposedly the next Wonder Woman, but maybe she's Amelie's daughter. We haven't even heard about that. Remember, Wonder Woman was going to go out there and find the perpetrator of those murders. She was going to go find Emily or Amelie or whatever the fuck her name was that actually killed all those guys and started this entire war. Haven't heard about that in fucking half a year at this point. But he just talks forever and fucking ever, and it's so boring and monotonous, and it makes it read real fucking long, but it's not an enjoyable read. This isn't good dialogue. It doesn't draw you in. It doesn't really make you think that the Sovereign's this big threat. He's still just a decrepit old man. It is an awful read trying to get through this. Not even the pages when he's not talking, most of the time have blue prose box, which are his fucking dialogue, talking to her daughter, explaining to her a lot of times about how amazing Diana Prince is, as if we didn't know this already and we didn't come to a Wonder Woman book expecting that to be like the fucking status quo. And him telling her, do you know why God sent his son and not a daughter? Because of this, that, and you can't be an agent of change because you're a daughter, not a son. It's fucking awful. That is the perfect way to describe everything about the Sovereign. No threat, no fucking stakes with this character whatsoever. I don't take him to be any type of physical threat, certainly to Wonder Woman. I don't take him to be any type of metaphysical threat to Wonder Woman. I don't take him to be any type of threat. She's literally already defeated his entire army single-handedly. She's literally already defeated his number one agent guy, Sergeant Steele. I think in this comic book, he's being tortured by her 3 Wonder Girls or whatever. This dude has gotten beat every single step of the way. The only thing that he's done that was bad was making that Marine kill himself, which was a stupid moment and lame on the part of Tom King as well. And this character is nothing burger. He means nothing. They've got the Trinity of Evil kicking off with absolute power, right? Ooh, all the big villains that really mean something. Guess who ain't in it? The fucking Sovereign. You want to know why? Because even DC Comics, who think Tom King is still some kind of draw within comic books, realizes that this fucking villain that he created just absolutely sucks. So at the end, while she's still bound by the lasso of lies and having a weird conversation with her mother and decides, you lie, you can't stop me. And then she looks like Kayla Harrison or whatever, breaking through the lasso with her enormous back muscles and shoulder, which fit Wonder Woman. I'm not saying that she shouldn't be enormous. She is a fucking Amazon. But when she breaks free and picks him up by his throat, ready to kill him, it's no surprise. It's not a big deal. What is this guy going to do besides get killed? He's literally not a threat to Wonder Woman. He hasn't been a threat to Wonder Woman the entire time this comic book has existed. The only reason this guy is able to still narrate the book to her daughter is because she's allowed him to live to this point. He is a threat to nobody, not even himself. And that's why you have to get more creative if you want to create a villain that represents what Trump is, because Trump is not physically a threat to anybody. You know, if you want to encapsulate that into a character, you have to display that in other ways. And hopefully along the way, there's a little nuance to the story, and not everything is so on the nose. I feel like I'm getting hit by a fucking jackhammer with all of your subtlety throughout the comic book. Needless to say, I'm not recommending Wonder Woman #8 or any of the issues of Tom King's Wonder Woman run. It's been awful every step of the way. Normally, Tom King comes out of the gate for the first 3 issues with a solid concept that makes you think, maybe I was wrong. Maybe this is the story where he gets it right. But there are a couple of occasions where that never happened. This is one, and I would certainly say Heroes in Crisis is another. This thing came out of the gate like hot garbage and is staying that way every step of the way. And I do think he has bottomed out at Wonder Woman #8, wasted a great artist. Not even Daniel Sampere could actually put in enough effort to make this thing look remotely exciting. No effort was put into this script, and after seeing what was put out there with Tom King's scripts, I can see why. The guy apparently is a really fucking lazy writer, and it comes out in his stories. Boring, poorly paced, nothing really cool being explored here. What have we learned about Wonder Woman in the first 8 issues of Tom King's run? Nothing. I know that Tom King doesn't like the patriarchy. I know Tom King sees Wonder Woman as his mommy wife. We're learning nothing about the Wonder Woman character. It makes no sense for her, and certainly Steve Trevor and every other character associated with are being done a disservice basically across the board. And the sooner the Sovereign goes away for good, the better. The moment I saw that character, I knew Tom King was completely incapable of doing anything interesting with him. He could only do one thing. He's Trump. He's the patriarchy. And it's been that way every step of the way. It's been torture reading all of his laborious fucking dialogue and inner monologue and all that bullshit. And this series sucks, but I have to keep on because it's one of the big 3. It's one of the DC series that I always have to check out. I don't have to read Flash. I don't have to read Green Lantern if it's bad, but I do have to read Wonder Woman along with Batman and Superman. It absolutely sucks. Do not read this one. If you think it's great, explain to me what was so great about this particular issue. If you want to tell me the art, I won't disagree with you, although I think Daniel Sampere has done better stuff. If you want to tell me it's the story, you're going to have to explain that one too, because it went right the fuck over my head, because I don't think there was an interesting panel in this entire comic book, including the backup story. If you would like more comic book reviews and news around comic books, there's a lot coming out right now. You don't want to miss out on Thing Critical Patreon. There's a link in the video description. We got multiple tiers on that one. Lots of reviews, lots of comic book talk, all of your favorite guests over there. Definitely check that one out, and I hope to see you there real soon.